lose maybe 6%, 0.6% range of return, but if it makes you sleep better at night, it's not a bad thing to do. But this way you can do a direct comparison between them. Before, we had a lot of people, particularly since the fonts were so small, they couldn't tell what the percentages were. So they didn't know what it varied between each one, so we thought this would be an easier way to display it. Okay, this is what really tells the story. I have two slides in here, 930 numbers and 1031 numbers. And there's a huge difference between the two. So these are all the asset classes, major asset classes. S&P 500 down negative 19% through 930. International developed down negative 28%. International emerging down negative 35%. This is what I want you to look at. Look at these 10-year numbers. S&P 500 currently tracking at 3.06% through 930, right? 105 years, it's 11.2%. 20 years, it's 11.9%. 10 years, it's 3.06%. So how is that possible? Well, let's look down here at this graph. It makes it understanding a little easier. If you're above the zero line, the market made money in the asset class. If you're below the zero line, the market lost money. Guess what? We have 4 years, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2008, that now have lost money. Typically, the market averages out on a 7-year cycle. 5 years are up, 2 years are down. We now have a 10-year cycle. 4 years are negative. 6 years are positive. And what's happening is that we're dropping off really good years in the 10-year numbers, and we're picking up a really bad year. So as a result, it's dramatically affecting the 10-year numbers. But more importantly, monthly returns are tremendously affecting the numbers. So remember what I just told you with these levels. 3%, 3.06% for S&P 500. Let's go to 1031. It just dropped to 0.4. That's a 10-year number. We just lost 3% in 1 month on a 10-year number because of what's happened, adding one more month in. But more importantly, guess what? Every single asset class went to negative. The only two that were positive in the previous one were fixed income and real estate investment trusts. Now they're negative as well. So there's nowhere to hide in the market. You can just hide it less deficit in your account if you have more of a bond component, but all of them are down. And what's so scary is now we're looking at S&P returns of 32. Now keep in mind, this is 1031. We know that's not correct now. We know S&P's down at like negative 44%, where we're standing right now in December. We look at the international markets, negative 43%. Emerging markets, negative 53%. So if you're in an all-equity portfolio, you've got negative 32, you've got negative 35, you've got negative 43, negative 53, and it begins to make sense why the returns are down so much, because the underlying asset classes are down. But more importantly, this is where people start getting really freaked out, because they say, how can the 10-year numbers have changed so much? You've always told us all along, this is what we're looking at. It's extreme losses in a very short period of time that have happened. So as a result, for your portfolio, the 1-year numbers through 930, negative 25 for the most aggressive, negative 20 for the aggressive, negative 16 for the balance, negative 12 for the moderate, and 3.82 for the money market. However, we go to 1031, everything almost doubled. Negative 42 for the most aggressive, negative 36 for the aggressive, negative 30 for the balance, negative 23 and 3.56 for the conservative model. So what's happened is that suddenly now the 10-year numbers and the 5-year numbers are coming down. So everyone's looking at this and they're panicking, saying this is all different. And it's true, because we've accelerated. We have 3 years that was 2000, 2001, 2002 of losses that are now compressed into 1 year, but now that's built into the 10-year numbers. So we really have almost, if you want to look at it this way, 6 years relative. If we have 3 years that typically is a negative, now take 1 year that equals like 3. That's why these negative returns are looking, these 10-year returns are looking so low. So it's going to turn around equally as fast when the market starts to turn around. For every month that drops off of negative returns and we have positive returns, they're going to shift fast. But we really need to take a very, very concerted view of, we're disciplined investors, the market rewards patience, we're not going to do anything that's going to be a knee-jerk, because there really is nowhere to go that's safe right now. Because yes, you can go to money market, but I'll tell you what, If you're sitting in the balanced strategy and you're at negative 30%, why do you want to go to money market and realize that 30% that's a loss? Because as soon as you basically get out of those shares and you go to cash, you realize that loss. As long as you're in the market, that negative 30% is unrealized, and there is such a phenomenal difference between realized and unrealized. Realized means it's coming out of your pocket. You don't have any way of getting that back based on being in money market. You're dollar denominated. You stay in the market, yes, this negative 30% might continue for another 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, but when it suddenly turns around, you're going to be part of that. And we don't know how fast it's going to recover. We don't know if it's going to be an abrupt bull curve that shoots up, but more likely than not, it's going to be a gradual escalation over time, and it's just going to take patience. And it might take 2 or 3 years to basically get back what we've lost within this year, but if you have the discipline, you'll definitely be able to make it work. So the real challenge now is to not listen to what they're saying on the news, because it makes you immediately want to sell everything and put it in gold, or it makes you want to take all your money and cancel it out. And we've had even cases where, because of some of the websites that have cropped up about privatizing 401k accounts and seizing all the assets for Social Security, where we've had people who say, I don't want to contribute any money to 401k plans since the government's just going to take it, which, by the way, will not happen. It's just not going to happen. They won't be able to do that. They would be lynched and crucified if they tried to touch our 401k money. But the point is, there's enough fear out there that we don't need another doomsday scenario. We have the federal government that's really done a great job in putting together really good stimulus programs that are going to be able to help. We have an additional $800 billion over and above the $850 billion that's been assigned to TARP that's recent, of which $200 billion has been assigned to helping people out with mortgages that they're going to lose, getting that toxic debt off the books. So they understand if they don't do something, that everything's going to just continue to keep getting worse and worse, and particularly because of, and I will be very interested to hear your take on this, by the way, as soon as I'm done talking. I have seen the real estate numbers change so much in the last 6 months. Because the last time we were here, we talked and I got your input on what was happening, and they were saying, well, it looks like we've kind of started to hit a bottom in the market, 11 months of excess inventory, and then we'll be able to start to pull out of it. Just in the last 3 weeks, I've seen 2 articles, Wall Street Journal, saying, well, we have at least another year through 2009 before we hit the bottom. Now, again, they're talking nationally and what's happening. And it might be 2010 or 2011 before we start to pull out. And I'm thinking, you know, how is that constructive? You go from, we have hope 6 months ago, and it looks like we're finally getting over the pain, and even if it doesn't appreciate rapidly, at least people can, you know, take a deep breath and go, okay, I'm in good shape. Now to say, well, we thought we were almost over it. Now you have at least another year, but it might be 3, but we're not sure. So, and there's people saying, you know, I need my house to appreciate. I need to sell it. I'm getting ready to retire, and I'm going to move to Montana or do something else, and it's very, very difficult right now. So it puts us in a situation right now where we have a lot of external advice that's happening saying that what we're currently doing isn't working. I read, I can't even begin to tell you how many periodicals and news articles and radio shows that I listen to every day. And there is so much out there that's saying, you know, buy my solution that's unique now versus doing what works. We know what works. We've been around since 1991. We've been doing model portfolios since then. We've been through several of these cycles of the down market, and it does work long term. It does not work short term if you're trying to do short term market timing in and out, but it works long term. So it's a matter of just saying, okay, it's bad news. We know it was going to be bad news, but at least we kind of have a mark out there. We can look at the end of March of 2009. How have the new policies been implemented? Are they being accelerated into the economy? Do we look hopeful for the second quarter, or is it taking longer? It might be the end of the second quarter before they start happening. But the point is, there is hope on the horizon, because once labor gets in order, we get new jobs that are out there, people start working, we get really the credit freeing up. That's the big thing right now. People can't get money for car loans. People can't get money to buy houses because it's so tight. You have to have just exemplary credit in order to be able to qualify. So where's the balance? We go from no paperwork and requiring nothing, and it's, you know, lie all you want and get anything you want, buy multiple houses, to, well, unless you're in the top tier, we're only gonna